Okay, who am I? This is one of the most difficult questions I think someone can answer. But anyway, I'll try to do my best. I'm a writer, and I've struggled a lot with myself before defining me as such. For most of my life, I have been involved in writing, but only for study and work, not directly. I have a degree in foreign languages and literature, and I have a PhD in literature. After my studies, I continued to work for about 10 years as a university lecturer and searcher. Mainly, I taught literature, I analyzed and studied the texts of the big writers. So it was a job that I love, but that did not satisfy me completely. Or perhaps it will be better to say that did not give me the possibility to express myself. And for this, I want to explain better this point, and to do this, I need to make a step back and talk about my past. So, I am from the island of Mauritius, a small island located in the middle of the Indian Ocean. I grew up there until I was 10, and then for work reasons, my parents decided to move in Italy. The first period in Italy was very difficult because suddenly I found myself in a new world where everything that I was previously didn't seem to have a space to exist in Italy. For everything, I mean my language, the music I used to listen, the color I used to see, the flavor I used to taste, the way I used to dress also, why not? All these things that I used to share with an entire community suddenly had disappeared. At their place, there was another society with another language, music, or gestures that I need to know and learn about also. Principally, I began to observe things around me and to notice how the other act or talk. And slowly, all these situations get transformed in my head. There was such a cacophony of image, sounds, and voice in my head that I began to feel the necessity to put them in another space, a blank space, like a blank paper space. So I began to write. If I need to speak about my favorite piece, I can surely tell you, using a verse of the poet Nazim Hikmet, that the most beautiful words I want to tell you I haven't said yet. This because I think that writing can improve with time and practice. Each time I write something new, I always remember what I didn't like in the previous text, what I found not efficient. I'm very critical with myself, but this time it's a critic that I use to improve my writing, to do better and better. So in this direction, my best texts are yet to be born, but there is a text that I am very fond of and that has allowed me to test my ability to write. I'll talk about Il sorriso della scimmia, The Foreigner's Smile, a text that has been translated in English and tested also by Pavel Fabulamundi. I love this playwright because through it I began to experience the potential of my cultural background. In this text I used to cross three cultures: Italian culture, Mauritian culture, and also Indian culture, that are part of my identity. And I make them coexist on the same moment in the same place on stage. But there is also another reason, a little more engaged, even if I'm far to feel myself an engaged person. Anyway, with that text, I've tried to show some of the difficulties that immigrants go through, not only when they arrive, but over time. I've tried to show what can be the effect of these difficulties on their life or identity. I just move with the things that happen around me, and I follow my writing. By nature and maybe also by life experience, I've learned to proceed by small steps. And this attitude, on one hand, often penalizes me because I'm not able to plan my journey. But on the other hand, it gives me a huge space of freedom. Freedom that I use by following images, impressions, lights, or even doubt or fears that says me along my journey, and that is useful for my writing. As I tell you, it's taken me a while to begin writing, but in all these years, I've created a lot of plot and story in my mind. Some of them have decayed over time, while others are waiting patiently for their turn to come to light in some form. At the beginning, I've tell you that I am a writer, not only a playwright. That's because I began to write also novels and short stories. Some of the stories touch me in first person and are somehow related to my flesh more than to my skin. Usually people used to think that a person with my skin tone is more likely to talk about certain topics that have to do with immigration, discriminations, racism, intolerance. And in part they are right. Certainly I am concerned by all these stories. But also I write also about these stories, but not only of these stories. There are other stories, many other stories that attract me and are related with topics such as the difficulty to define oneself inside our society that perpetually is in the kind of neurotic movement, or even I want to write about situations that concern the dynamics and relationships between people that lead sometimes to madness and to violence. I also like to focus on small human miseries. I'm always impressed with little stories that hide inside universal behavior. Anyway, I think that it is always difficult to talk about the story of the future in terms of theme or subject. I never choose a theme or subject to start writing. Instead, I begin by following maybe a sentence or a verse that caught my attention. But more than words, it is often an image or a sound or even a smell that strike me in an unexpected way. So what I do sometimes, I used to follow this image and sounds and use used to drag me into a kind of atmosphere where suddenly I used to add some words or movements, and still the story began to grow up and get developed. Among the various things that struck me and that I would like to follow for a playwriting, there is an image that obsesses me for several years. It's a painting by Caravaggio, to which I have already associated some words or situation. But I would not like to reveal too much, because I always have a sort of reserve, if not embarrassment, in talking about what is yet to be born. And maybe one day I would like to write something about this kind of feeling too. Why not?